Observation. My wife's favorite android, and not the phone. She hates my phone. Hey, what's happening, gamers? We are the Kwings. Welcome to our Let's Play channel. And today we're talking about the Red Tornado, another requested character. Actually, Amber requested it. So this minifigure can be found in the Hall of Doom and goes for 23,000 studs. His abilities go like this. Fire and goo resistant. He shoots lasers, has detective vision, and when he flies, this happens! Tell me how cool that is in the comments below. I mean, where does his legs go? That's just crazy! Okay, so a little bit of comic book background for all of you. He was created by Gardner Fox and Dick Dillion in 1968 for a Justice League comic book. Hey, wait a second! He came to life the same year that Guy Gardner became a teenager with attitude. The more you know. Alright, his origin is really odd, but I'll do my best to explain it. I hope. Okay, first off, the very first Red Tornado pulled a Metroid in 1940. He wasn't a he at all. She was a she, so a girl. Also, the comic was done as a parody against superheroes like the Green Lantern and the Flash during the 1940s. So, Jay Garrick and Alan Scott. Her costume consisted of a bucket she wore on her head to disguise her gender, and she had long johns and a towel for a cape, and she just beat up bad guys. She went by the alias Ma Hunkel, who was a single mother, and she did eventually join the Justice Society of America. Now, her daughter would later take on her role with the League, did some stuff. I don't know if she had powers or not. Her granddaughter, however, was known as the Cyclone, who had superpowers, and became a member of Timmy's Young Justice crew, so Tim Drake. But enough about that, back to the machine that wanted to be a man. Just so you know, Red's original origin is way too weird and confusing to describe. All you need to know is it was two alien entities known as Tyrant and Tornado Champion, or Champion, whatever. They basically split and they became Red Tornado in one universe, or Silver Age, I forget. Other times he was a wind god or something that merged with a robot. Essentially, he joins the JSA, then he travels to Earth 1 to join the Justice League of America. His soul is actually one of the things responsible for causing the great destruction of the multiverse and Crisis on Infinite Earths. And, Barry is actually killed as a result of all this confusingness, which I really don't want to get into. It's just, sometimes pre-Crisis is like, nyeh. So we're gonna stick with the Dark Age of DC Comics, my favorite, 1986 through 2011. Okay, so in this version, Red Tornado originally was a Frankenstein monster made to destroy the Justice Society of America. But due to his heroic programming, Red Tornado didn't fulfill his true purpose. So Dr. Morrow was not happy that his robot was not the perfect murder weapon. However, for whatever reason, he was able to get the robot to go a little bit crazy, but it was still missing a soul. So basically what happened is similar to the Firestorm Matrix, Red Tornado is two people that become one. Or in this case, a soulless body that gets an Earth elemental spirit. Now in DC Comics, if you don't know about that, in order for an elemental to become a sentient life, it needs a body. So think Boston Brad or Swamp Thing, but we'll talk about him another day. During a battle with the Justice Society of America, Red Tornado gets possessed by this air elemental thing known as Ulthon or Ilthon. I don't know, it's a weird name. Thus, Red Tornado becomes alive. Johnny, I'm alive! And, he gets a soul made of silicon, more or less. Though having the spirit inside of him, giving him life, causes some issues with Tornado's sanity. His body gets destroyed a lot, and sometimes his speech is not very human-like because, well, he's a robot. Thanks to Batman, though, he gets a different body and a brand new identity of a human named John Smith, who basically is his secret identity. So he becomes a college professor because he can read books and stuff, and he's super smart because he's a computer. And he goes on many adventures with the League, and like Batman, is a part-time or standby member. Over time, he develops feelings for a girl in his class named Kathy Sutton, and adopts a little girl named Tyra. And he makes his own little family unit because even robots want to have a family. It's just part of the human spirit. You want to belong to a family unit. For a time, they're pretty happy, but with him mostly being a robot and getting destroyed a lot and reprogrammed by bad guys, it kind of puts a strain on his family's relationship. And for whatever reason later, John loses his job and his wife bolts and takes his daughter. So he develops robot depression, I guess. After the events of the Elemental War, John takes himself offline by himself and cuts himself off from the world in the League's former Rhode Island base known as Happy Harbor. He stays like that until one sleepover with 3 noisy super brats. That's right, Tim Drake, Connor Kent, and the Crash Kid himself, Bart Allen, Impulse. In fact, Alan drives Tornado's soul so crazy to the point he reactivates himself to tell the kids to put a sock in it. When Red actually realizes he's feeling human emotions again, he sets himself up as the boys' advisor for their new team, Young Justice. He also goes on missions with the kids should things get too hairy and kind of acts like a parental unit for them. Not long after his reactivation, Red Tornado goes back to see his wife, but in his superhero persona. It's way too much for his mind to comprehend him donning a human appearance again because he's not human. All goes pretty well for the Young Justice crew, and Tornado also rejoins the Justice League for a while. That is, until the events of Young Justice and Titan's graduation day, which we're not going to talk about here because I've talked about previously in other episodes. During the events of Infinite Crisis, Red Tornado works with Diana Troy to protect Earth from space and is destroyed, saving the world somehow. The team then tells Kathy that her hubby is dead for good, and she's all distraught, and the world is mourning him. However, his creator, Dr. Morrow, is like, how many times has Red been blown to bits now? I lose track. I give it 2 months, 3 months, he'll be back, right as rain. Which is exactly what happens in DC's 52 weekly series. Which is weird. Red Tornado's head comes back, they build him a new body, and he goes all over the place. But he only speaks about the upcoming warning and Earth's doom, or 1 year later. Personally, I can't stand DC's 1 year later arc for 3 reasons. 1, Dick Grayson breaks off his engagement to Babs. 2, Jason Todd kills people as Nightwing in New York City. And 3, Red Tornado becomes a real boy. Yup. Thanks to the efforts of Felix Faust, the magician guy, Red Tornado becomes truly human and gets to be with his family. And his wife's like, wow, you're actually flesh and blood. And he's like, yeah, and I still got my wind powers too. Sadly, by the end of year 1, Red Tornado is mutilated in front of his entire family by a super intelligent Solomon Grundy out for revenge against the robot for whatever reason. Before he fully dies, Zatanna places his spirit back inside his robot shell, or in this case, his prison. But still, DC, listen to me. If you're going to turn Pinocchio into a real boy, don't kill him like that in front of his little girl. That's just messed up. I still can't get the crumpled image of him out of my mind. Ugh. Once again, he's a robot. DC has stories about him getting hacked, turning against his friends, and all kinds of weird stuff. Eventually, after the events of Blackest Night, so DC's zombie thing, Cyborg and the Tornado become good buddies, and Cyborg builds him a super cool new indestructible body that then eventually goes haywire and almost destroys the Watchtower and his visiting family. Come on, Victor, read the manual, bro, before you mess with all this weird stuff you don't quite understand. You had good intentions, but you almost destroyed everybody. To be honest, I really don't know what happens to Red after he nearly destroys the League. I remember seeing him happy and chilling with his family until Barry erased the DC universe because of his mummy issues. Thanks, Barry. We loved Flashpoint so much. You destroyed the pre-52 universe. Now, in the new 52, Red Tornado on Earth 2 is actually Lois Lane. The Wind Elemental guy, Red Tornado, they don't really exist. It's a she, just like during the Golden Age. Now, if you don't know this, on Earth 2, Darkseid invaded and enslaved the Earth, killed all the heroes, and anybody that stood against him, he killed them. Which is exactly what happened to Lois Lane off-panel. Before Superman was killed fighting Steppenwolf, her dad found Lois and stuck her mind inside the android before she fully died. I know, right? Father of the Year. As for other media, well, Red had a cameo in Justice League Unlimited, speaking and non-speaking at times. He first appears looking for Wonder Woman, who's been transformed into a pig, so that episode where Wonder Woman is trying to convince Batman to date her and Cersei turns her into a pig, that episode. He has one line in the show, and it's, Zooey, Zooey. So yeah, such a big role. He has a bigger role in the Great Brain Robbery where Wally and Lex's minds trade places, and Red is shown working with GL to stop Lex Flash from destroying the Watchtower. As for Batman Brave and the Bold, Red is actually a regular, more or less. His main plot is trying to develop human emotions and the feeling of becoming human. It's something that he really wants, but he can't have, and it's pretty tragic, but it's a really interesting element of the show. Now, he's using his human identity, John Smith, in the show, and he's shown living alone, and he teaches at a college just like what his human counterpart did. Kathy and his daughter were planned to be introduced in the show later to show more of a family element, but it never happened because the show got canceled due to the low reception. Like most Silver Age heroes in the show, Red has established himself as a champion for his own city, or in this case, a small Midwestern town, but later he moves to Coast City for whatever reasons. His first full appearance is a Christmas episode where the main underlining plot is Red Tornado trying to experience the spirit of Christmas. He wears a Christmas sweater that's all gaudy, decorates his home, goes caroling, does everything he can to experience the joy of Christmas through books, but he doesn't feel anything. No tingles, no joy, no nothing. At the end of the episode, he blows up and feels happy because he's experiencing tingles, and Batman's like, dude, you're dying! And Red's like, I feel good, and then goes offline. But then Batman rebuilds him. In the episode The Tornado Tyrant, we see a different version of the Red Tornado's personality. He actually creates a son and longs for a family. His son's name is Tornado Champion. Now, the whole point of this episode is the son begins to develop human emotions unlike his father. Champion feels and thinks for himself due to a freak accident, but learns humans fear him and doesn't understand why evil exists in the world. This leads to his family's first fight. But even though they fought, Champion does show up to assist his father with a prison breakout. After his dad gets hurt in front of him by a bad guy, Champion loses his emotions and attacks the villain who hurt his dad. After that, Batman convinces Red Tornado to terminate his own son. Not even listening to Champion's pleas to exist and live, and not even explaining to the little kid what he did wrong. Just convinces Red to pull the plug. If anything, Champion should have been sent to his room without oil or something, or benched for a while and told, hey, you messed up this quest, so don't do that again. And be like, okay, I get it. But killed by his own family? No, that doesn't make any sense. Does Batman kill his Robins after they botch the many missions they do because their emotions go out of control? Of course not. Alfred would have words with him if he did. And I think Gotham would be kind of like, this Batman needs to go to jail. All I'm saying, folks, is Batman has no right to tell another life form they can or cannot exist. What's funny is, this act of murder, which it is what causes the young champion to become the villain, Tornado Tyrant, in the first place. It's Batman's fault! Another thing I find so hypocritical about this episode is during the final battle, they're trying to teach this villain morality and love while trying to kill him. How is that love? That's not love. What kind of freaky love is that? In this episode, the bad guys are Batman and Red Tornado, easily. Although Red Tornado is kind of dragged into this, and he's just following Batman's example because Batman's human and robots are supposed to serve humanity. Except in those movies where they try to kill humanity because humanity's like a plague. But anyway, DC, do not ever let this Batman be a parent, ever. Anyway, after defeating his son at the end of the episode, Red Tornado actually cries. And it's kind of showing that he does have a soul, he just doesn't have an emotion chip like Data. He's like Data, basically. And Batman, of course, feels no remorse for his actions, and he's just kind of like, hey, maybe don't play God next time. Declaration: Batman is a jerk. But enough of that, on to Young Justice. Like the comics, Red Tornado acts as an advisor to Aw-Qward's squad, and Batman acts as kind of the general telling people what to do. Red Tornado assists when he can and does go on some missions, but his origin in Young Justice is that of Dr. Morrow made several robots to infiltrate the Justice Society, but since they all looked human and they acted human, they died protecting their teammates who were human. Now, with Red Tornado, the third android, he actually makes him to look like an android and tells him, look, you're an android, I need you to go in the Justice Society and kill them. However, history repeats itself and Red is made too well and rebels against his own programming. Later becomes a founding member of the Justice League, but I won't spoil anymore because Young Justice is still relatively new. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for watching another LEGO Batman 3 lore video, this time on the Red Tornado. I hope you all learned something and walk away with more of a respect and admiration and curiosity about the Red Tornado. Don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos in the link below. And until next time, God bless and happy gaming. Have a good one.